Welcome. My name is Allison Arnold. I'm the Consumer Horticulture Agent with the Cooperative Extension Service here in Buncombe County, and I'll be your host today. I want you to know that for the first time ever, we are doing this on Zoom and live here at the office at 49 Mount Carmel Road. We have a group of master gardeners in our room with our speaker. We hope everything runs smoothly, but we know that we have a great program ahead of us, and this is an exciting time as we go hybrid, I guess you might call it. We want to welcome you to Gardening in the Mountains, Western North Carolina natives and nativars planning for pollinators. Our speaker today is Shelby Jackson. Shelby is a partner and sales manager at the Carolina Native Nursery just up the road in Burnsville. She's worked professionally with plants for over 25 years and is a North Carolina certified plant professional. Shelby is on the Horticulture Technology Board at Blue Ridge Community College and participates regularly in other community gardening projects. She is passionate about native plants and is concerned about our native pollinators as well and how they interact with wild type native plants and selected and crossbred varieties. We are very happy to have her with us today to help us understand more about these natives and nativars and guide us in some appropriate plant selections. Take it away, Shelby.
Good morning. I hope everyone is doing good today. I'm super happy to be here, and this is really fun. This is my first Zoom presentation. I am super pumped today to talk to you guys about nativars, native plants. What do we choose? Does it matter? And that kind of stuff. Allison did a wonderful introduction for me. And real quick, before we move in, I want to tell you a little about Carolina Native Nursery. We are up in Burnsville. We're about 30 miles north of Asheville, not too far, maybe a 45-minute drive from downtown Asheville. We've got a beautiful valley up there. We have over 50 greenhouses, and we grow over 190 different varieties, cultivars, and straight species native plants. We specialize in native azaleas and native rhododendron, all native to the eastern U.S. We specialize in growing those beautiful plants from seed. We've got about 5 propagation houses, and we just fill them up with all those beautiful flowers. We also do perennials, ferns, grasses, and all kinds of great plants. We'd love to have any of you guys out to come see us. We have a retail space, and we do lots of wholesale, anywhere from California all the way out to Maine. We've actually got some plants in China too, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's us. So we're going to start moving into some plant geek stuff, which is cool. This is a big question, I think, in native plants, nativar, cultivar varieties, straight species selection. What's the difference? What does it all mean? Does it matter to our pollinators? Does it matter to us? And ultimately, which of those plants are going to do best in our mountain garden? So that's really what we're going to talk about today. We're going to start off with just getting into talking about what is what when it comes to nativars, cultivars, and straight species. Then we'll get a little buggy and talk about some insects, what they like, what they don't like. And then we're just going to talk plants for the last little bit, which I get really excited about. So we'll stop here and there for some questions. So y'all just let me know if you have any questions, and let's get moving. Big question. What's the difference? How does it work? I've used black-eyed Susans as an example here. So we're just going to kind of break it down a little bit and go through and talk about what's what. Generally, really get down to the, down and dirty part of it. Straight species. Your straight species plants are just exactly what they are. They're seed grown. They're going to come true from seed, and 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, pollinators are going to love them the best. For example, you've got Rudbeckia fulgida, which is your black-eyed Susan. Now, a cultivar. Let's break down the word cultivar. Cultivar is a cultivated variety. We're going to talk about varieties in a second. But when you hear cultivar, you're going to know that you're talking about a cultivated variety. Cultivated means we humans have stepped in and have propagated, hybridized, selected a plant because it's better than the rest or different or special. And we want to share that specialness with all the other plant lovers out there in the world. They can occur in nature. Varieties can be Mother Nature made. Hybrids are most always man-made, where humans have stepped in and we've done some crossbreeding. We've kind of played around with the plant a little bit genetically and modified it to make it what we want. They're going to need to be vegetatively propagated, so you really can have the exact same outcome every time if you want to propagate that plant, because it's been selected for something special. A lot of times, if you grow those cultivated varieties from seed, they're not always going to come back the way you see them in the garden. Nativars is just a name we've given a native cultivar. So there's not much of a difference. Nativar, cultivar, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just specifically a name given to cultivars of native plants. Some examples of the cultivars. One of my favorite little Rudbeckias, so cute. It's called Little Gold Star. It's a dwarf Rudbeckia. It only gets maybe about 8 to 12 inches tall. It looks just like Goldstrum, except a little baby. So it's wonderful for the home garden, and it's just really sweet and really cute. Little Gold Star was an open pollinated hybrid. So that's where we had a big field that was all planted out. We had open pollination. So all our pollinators were visiting all the plants in that area. And then they sowed all the seeds from what they collected from those plants. And of all those seeds, up came this little gold star, this little dwarf. They selected it, pulled it out, and said, "This is great. We need to put a name on this, and we need to make this available to our home gardeners." So it got a name, a little gold star, and you start vegetatively propagating it. So they were doing tissue culture, cuttings, root division, things like that. They're working off of the one main plant and propagating it that way. It can also be a mutation. There are some things where Mother Nature just goes a little wacko and gives us something special, which is pretty cool, I think. And that's how we got Early Bird Gold. And that's another one where they've kind of seen something funky going on. They selected it out, and then they vegetatively propagated that, stuck a name on it, and it's a little bit early bloomer. It's real tough. It's a great plant for the home garden also. So that's where you're getting these cultivated plants. They are cultivated by humans. We have stepped in and we have made these plants available to gardeners everywhere. Now, hybrids are crosses of plants where either it could be two straight species plants that have crossed, or you can see different varieties that cross, and you're going to see that X. That X is going to be used right up there. And that's how you know it's a hybrid plant, where it's been crossed with something else. I'm sure you've probably seen it on the market. There's Echinacea, which is an echinacea, and a Rudbeckia that's been crossed. And it's in all the garden centers. It's really popular. It's beautiful plants. And that's one example of a hybrid where we've crossed two pretty cool plants, and voila, we have this whole new plant available. So that's a hybrid and a variety. This is pretty much the basis of your cultivars, or these varieties. And they're generally naturally occurring variations in a plant. It could be a curly leaf. It could be an extra set of petals. It could be a little variegation. It could be something kind of fun and neat like that. Those typically will protrude from seed on a lot of these. So Rudbeckia fulgida variety D is Deems Black-Eyed Susan. So that's just another example of a cultivar, a variety, cultivated kind of change in the plant there. So when you hear nativar, just think that it is a native plant that has been cultivated by us, that it's shown something special and how beautiful it is, or what it's offering to the garden, and for us to look at something extra beautiful out there. So it's just something a little different, which is pretty cool. There's a big kind of argument out there about, are nativars native? Are they as good? Are they okay? And are they helping wildlife? Are they helping pollinators? Are they feeding the birds? And that's kind of a really big question. And I think it depends. We're going to get into that in a minute when we talk about bugs. But before we go there, is there any questions about natives versus cultivars and what they are? Yeah. Or is like, it's really, just work. Yeah, and she was asking nativars if it's kind of a fluke. Some are. Some can be nature made, a mutation in the plant, something along that line. It can also be created by man. So it kind of goes both ways. The little gold star was an open pollinated. That was a natural cross or a natural variation from cross-pollination, where you didn't have someone stepping in and taking this piece of pollen and putting it over on this other flower and making it happen. That was from an open pollinated field. A lot of growers and breeders will do that, where they'll just plant it all in fields, let it go and let the pollinators play around. And then you collect your seed and you kind of see what you get. An example, we specialize in native azaleas and we seed grow them all. We will collect seed from the woods and the mountains. We have permission to work with the Arboretum to go there and collect seed. And sometimes there'll be a pinkster bloom over here, and 30 feet away, there's a sweet azalea. 20 feet away from that, there's a Florida flame azalea. And we'll collect seed from all of these. When we germinate them, get them going, in about 3-4 years when they bloom, you'll have all the colors of the rainbow, which lends to genetic diversity also, which is very important. So you get all these kind of cool colors. If you really want to break it down, you can get in there and really look at the parentage of the plants if you really want to go there on some of the seed grown stuff. But that's kind of an open pollinated source plant where just nature happened and letting the pollinators get out there and do their work, which again creates the genetic diversity, which is important for our insects, plant communities, and just ecology in general. So it can go both ways. You can have the man-made stuff, or you can have the open pollinated fields, collect those seeds and see what you get, which is kind of a cool surprise. And that really excites a lot of folks in the horticulture industry that are looking for these new, fun, neat plants to put on the market and put names on and get out to people. Think about all the different colors of coral bells, all the heuchera out there. There's lime green, there's caramel, there's purple, there's all these colors, and they're really beautiful. And some of those are natural, some of those have been completely man-made. So you can kind of play around with them. But technically, yes, a native is a cultivar, a cultivated variety. And again, that variety can be nature, man-made, kind of goes all across the board. Getting ready for this, I was reading a lot of articles. If anyone here is familiar with Doug Callamy, he is a really smart man and he knows his stuff, and he's done a lot of research and a lot of work to see how our insects are feeding, collecting nectar and pollen from these native plants, and being able to let us really know if these nativars, cultivars, varieties are giving them what they need. There's two different sides of that. There's the food chain. What are they going to eat? Are they going to eat all these leaves? And then you've got the pollen and nectar side of it. Are they going to use the pollen? Are they going to feed off the nectar and all that kind of different stuff? I read a great article that Doug did about the colors of leaves. And he did this big study on plants, stray species, of course, plants that had been bred for disease resistant, plants with variegated leaves, and a handful of others. And the outcome was really, really interesting. Ultimately, they ate all the green leaves. They loved it. Which surprised me was how much they ate the variegated leaves. They were able to release some insects. The insects would feed. They would go back in and look at the leaves and really scientifically break it all down, I think like centimeter by centimeter and stuff like that. It was really cool. And they found that variegated plants got just completely eaten a lot more than anything else. And I learned from that variegated plants, anything that's white, there's no chlorophyll in there, right? It's not getting the green. It's staying nice and white, which is beautiful for the garden, adds some really cool depth of color, but there's no nutrition in that. So of course they're going to eat more, right? Because they're not getting what they need and what they want. So they're going to just completely eat down all these variegated plants because they're not getting their fill. On the other end of that are the purple leaf plants. The purple leaf plants, they'll eat it, but once the leaves get changed color, the genetic makeup of that plant has changed also. And that includes the vitamins, minerals, and all the good stuff in that leaf and the reason why they're eating it. So you can plant all the purple leaf plants you want in your yard and yellow and crazy cultivar nativars out there. But it's also important to keep those straight species green leaves in there so they're really getting what they need, all those vitamins and minerals and all the good stuff. You got to keep those insects happy. Same with the birds, small mammals, things like that. And then same with nectar and pollen. I use the coneflower example of all these crazy new coneflowers that are out on the market with huge, just fertile flowers and tons of sterile flowers and racks. Does it have all this good stuff? And the flower may bloom for 3 extra longer months than we're used to in the summer. And you get all these kind of special quadruple sized flowers on things. Now, is there still the same amount of goodness for the insects in those? They're finding that it's harder to study that. It's not like we can mount cameras on bulbs and follow all these pollinators around everywhere and see what they're doing all the time. But I know they're doing some studies on this right now to check it out. Ultimately, the more we mess with the flowers to make them bigger and bolder, more beautiful, you got to give something up. You got to give something up to get something good, right? So you may lose a little bit of that reward that the pollen and nectar given the insects. I ultimately think when it comes to the pollinators and planting for the pollinators and selecting plants for a pollinator garden and our birds also, can't forget the birds, they're very important. Plant the cultivars, plant the nativars, but plant some straight species as well. I think ultimately that's, in my opinion, the number one bottom line. You've got to keep the straight species plants available there. You're not going to see the insects getting what they need. You may see some more insects on that giant cone flower that's really cool and blooms for 6 months, but is it giving the insect what it needs to take home to its babies and to create its space in our ecosystem? So just choose those pollinator friendly plants. Maybe do a little research on what you want to do. I'm a firm believer in the garden being your palette and your canvas, and you just creating what you want and what makes you feel good. So I really think that if you want to plant some Hinoki cypress, go. If you want to plant something that's not native, it's still okay to do. My example I use a lot of times is if you have a Japanese garden at home, you can plant a blueberry in there and still make it work. If you have an English knot garden, you can use IKEA. You can use that little gold star in your cottage garden. So you can add native plants into these other garden themes. You can add non-native plants. Don't go exotic and invasive. That's like the number one. Do not do. But it's okay to have some cool Japanese plants and neat plants from South America and these cool tropicals on your porch. I mean, we're here to enjoy the garden and love to be outside and to learn from the insects and animals that visit the ecosystem we've created in our backyard. So as long as you keep the right species out there, I think you can do what you want and make it yours and enjoy it and share it with your friends and family. Just a couple cool insects that I really like. These relate to why it is important to have straight species plants around. Number one, my favorite is the spicebush swallowtail over here. One of my favorite things to do in the summer is to go out. We have a full greenhouse of just Lindera. And these guys, they'll roll the leaf up to stay safe on the plant while they're feeding and doing their thing. We'll define those rolled up leaves, unroll and look at these little babies as they're crawling all around. It practices mimicry. Those are not its real eyeball, but it practices this mimicry so that birds and other insects will be like, whoa, look at that thing. It's going to eat me. I don't want to get near it. So the mimicry is really kind of cool on this guy. And he's just beautiful. The color's really bright. So that's an example, the spicebush swallowtail. They're only going to eat and hang out on spicebush. So you have to have the stray species spicebush out there to support that insect. The mottled dusty wing, it specifically really likes New Jersey tea, Ceanothus americanus. You got to have that straight species out there for it. If you don't, that guy is not going to have what it needs. This little elf in here, same thing, redbuds. It's a lover of the redbud. So these are just some examples of some of the insects that we really will lose if we don't keep some of the straight species plants out there for them to feed nectar, pollen, and get their food while they're larvae there. Do we have any questions on insects and buggy bugs? Of course. The question was whether we have a source where we can find what cultivars and nativars will feed them. They're working on all of that. I have not found one personally. I'm sure they're out there, some where they've tested them and watched them to observe and see what is supporting wildlife a little bit more. Doug Talamy was able to look at his and just see on the feeding. I think it comes back to staying as close to the straight species as possible. 9 bar. Our 9 bark out there is a green leaf. It has a nice lace cap flower on it that's really pretty. And there's summer wine, little devil. There's all these new purple leafed and golden copper tina is a beautiful copper leafed one. And they're great for the garden. But again, with that color change in the leaf, you're going to lose some feeding insects on that. But again, you can put that purple leaved plant in, I think, and still support your local pollinators. But I don't know a source specifically. I'm sure they're working on some to get them out there. Trusty old Google is one of my go-tos, and then using reputable sources. I know North Creek Nurseries out of Pennsylvania for perennials. Their plant information pages are great. They'll tell you if it's an open source, open pollinated plant, whether it is a hybrid. And that right there is going to tell you how much it's been messed with. So how much are your insects going to like it? New Moon Nursery is another great one out of New Jersey that also puts a lot of great plant information out for where the plant originated, where it came from. Pollinator.org, I believe, is a wonderful website resource to check out too. They get into bees and the whole nine. Yes.
Somebody in the chat box put in a link for the National Wildlife Organization.
Awesome.
It's a native plant finder that Doug Tallamy evidently recommends to locate keystone species.
Mhm. Keystone species, that's kind of it. It's keeping up with those top 10, 20, 30 plants that are hosting the majority of your pollinators out there. So that's great. Take a note of that one so I can get it when I'm done. But yeah, there's a lot of great information out there. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Doug has on his website just all of this great information available to us. He's really a gem for our industry and for our gardeners and pollinator and insect lovers out there. If we don't have any more questions, we're going to talk plants.
Somebody said, in a nutshell, green leaves are better.
If that's what the natural plant is, if that's a straight species. Now, if it's a natural mutation or something like that, you're probably still okay. But yes, generally your straight species plants are going to be healthier, better for the insects. And that's what's so difficult about all these studies that are being done, is that it's hard to track that one insect down, follow it around, check what it's feeding. It's not like we take their blood and run tests on everything. It's really hard. And that was one of the interesting things about Doug's study on the leaves and then being eaten, was seeing, oh, the variegated plants were just getting completely devoured. It must be great for them. Well, you really break it down and you look at the genetic makeup of the leaf and what's in there. And of course, we're getting more. It tastes really good, but it's not giving you anything you need. But, that's the hard part of it. It's like butterfly bush, your buddleias. They don't offer a whole lot of nutrition. And I think that was on one of my last ones. Here, they're going to forage on other plants besides native plants. So they do need some stopping grounds along the way. But that buddleia is not giving them 100% what they need. But your milkweeds, your coneflowers, New Jersey teas, all of these great plants are giving what they need. So it goes back to that whole thing again, the bottom line. Choose pollinator-friendly Nativars and plant some straight species together. Now we're going to talk some plants. This is my favorite. I really touched on some of my ones that I've either grown at home and seen the toughness in how they perform. I broke it down by straight species and then nativars and some good kind of selections that way. You will be surprised when we get into perennials. I have one that is a native crossed with a non-native. Ooh, it's so bad. But it's beautiful and it gives us so much in the garden. So as we go through, we're going to talk about some of these guys. I have pictures on the next slide. And I think most of you guys have handouts. Calicanathus floridus. We're going to start over there on the left side. This is, this is one of my favorite plants. They're pretty much all my favorite ones. This one's in the top 3. Calicanathus floridus is your sweet shrub, also known as Carolina allspice, also known as bubby bush. It's got a lot of cool names. I love this plant. It just makes me feel good. It grows best in full sun. You can do part shade on it. When I lived down south of Asheville and Hendersonville, I had one in the shade and the leaves actually were really big. It stayed nice and dark green. It was a really great shrub. It gets really big, so you've got to make sure he keeps the room for it. We're talking like 10 foot big. It has this waxy kind of thick petaled flower that smells like juicy fruit gum. It's really sweet scented, really fabulous. I really, really enjoy it. The fall color on this plant is phenomenal. It just gets almost blazing yellow, which is really beautiful. I pay attention a lot to the fall color. I like multi-season interest in the garden. So if it gives me a big punch of beautiful flowers in the spring, I better get some fall color, some berries, because I want to be able to look at it and enjoy it in the fall and winter. And this is one where you get great, great fall color on. It's really fragrant, like I was saying. So it's a good one for somewhere up on the porch. There are some cultivars, nativars of this one and selections out there. One I really like is Michael Lindsay, and it was developed just right over in Fletcher, I think is where it was produced and named after a local young man in the community. The flower's a little bit larger. The leaf is a beautiful, shiny green. It's just a really lovely one. The next one, another one that's one of my top three, Fothergilla gardeniae, is your witch alder. I love this plant. It has a white powder puff bloom in the early spring before the leaves come out or right as the leaves are starting to bud out on it. It has a really light honey fragrance and it doesn't get too super huge. The gardeniae, it is a dwarf species and it will sucker. It'll create a really nice home for itself if you just let her go. But really lovely. It has a really cool zigzag stem, so it gives you a little kind of interest in the fall and winter. And now this one, talk about fall color. This is one of the best. It is fire engine red. You get oranges in it. It is phenomenal. And it's got a little bit of a scalloped leaf. So it's a really interesting, beautiful leaf during the growing season, too. Full sun for the best flowers. You can go part shade on it. There is a sphinx moth, I believe, that this is a host plant for. So there's another example. You're supporting some of our local insect populations with the Fothergilla. Next one. Okay. Who can't live without oak leaf hydrangea? They are phenomenal. Another one with supreme fall color, reds, oranges. And let's talk about that gigantic green oak shaped leaf on that guy. It is truly a 4-season plant. It's got a peeling bark, a lot like a birch tree. So in the winter, after it's dropped all its leaves and you're hanging out with those sticks at home, you have this beautiful cinnamon and white colored bark on it that's really lovely. It gets big also. Now, there's tons of selections and varieties and cultivars of this out on the market right now, one for every garden. I think it does best in shade and part shade. This is one of these plants you see in gas station parking lots in full sun in a concrete, median or something, and it looks a little washed out and yellow. Take it home, plant it under a tree in the woods, and it will blow your mind. It'll bloom. The leaf will get really big, dark green. It's just really lovely. And it can handle some dry. So don't think you've got to plant it in this really moist space. It's a really nice kind of dry shade plant. It's hard to find a plant for dry shade out there. And with all these cool new varieties and selections out there, there's small ones, there's big ones, there's really small ones, there's really big full flower, there's double blooming ones. You have all these cool options out there with those. I love them. Full season all the time. You get a big white cone shaped flower that's going to fade to pink wine color. It's really pretty. The last one is Viburnum dentatum. I really like viburnums. We've got quite a few native viburnum species here in Western North Carolina and all along the eastern US. I like the dentatum because I like the shape of it. It's very vase shaped. It tends to be kind of skinny at the base and just goes up and out. It's great for a corner piece in your home. It's an anchor plant, so you can underplant around it, which is really nice. Another one with great fall color. The Viburnum dentatum will give you a nice yellow color in the fall. It does have a lace cap white flower in the spring. Great for your early pollinators. That's another thing about the Fothergilla I did not touch on. It does bloom so early that it's one of the first stops for those early spring pollinators. So having a really early spring bloomer is important because those pollinators start to get going for the season. And the viburnums are going to help you out with that too. Fall color, fantastic. It's a huge host plant for the pollinators. So it's a good one to have. Now it will get very big. You can see on there 8 to 10 foot. The nice thing about it is it's very straight. Arrowwood, the name of this plant comes from the stems being so straight. They were able to be used for arrows with our indigenous people that were here long before we were. So that's where you get the name from the Arrowwood viburnum, is how straight those stems are and how upright this plant is. So what can you do with big, tall, straight up plants? you can hedge trim right across the top of it to keep it, under 10 foot if you want to. It makes upkeep really easy with it. Yellows, reds, great fall color on that plant too. Real drought tolerant once it's established. It gets a big blue berry on it in the fall also.
We have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Speaking of arrowwood, do you need 2 arrowwoods to get berries?
There are some self-pollinating ones and some that aren't. There's some selections out there. I think a blue muffin, I believe, is a self-pollinator. Is that correct? I think so. A blue muffin's one that will self-pollinate. If you do straight species, you really just need 2 genetically diverse ones. The ones we grow at Carolina Native Nursery are all seed grown. So you could take 2 of the same species home and they will cross-pollinate. If you are working with vegetatively propagated ones, you would want 2 different ones to do that. So you want to make sure you're getting some seed grown varieties. And yes, you do need that. But I believe the blue muffin is a self-pollinator. So if you only have room for one, look for the blue muffin out there. And that's a great one that'll self-pollinate for you.
Okay, great. Someone said they had an 8-year-old Fothergilla that's declining and wondering if it has a lifespan or just needs some fertilizer.
Plants are like people. We all have a lifespan. If it's that old, it could use a rejuvenating prune would be one option where you could really get in and cut out some of the oldest wood on it. And I would definitely fertilize it this fall. Maybe even just a low grade, something like a holly tone. There's some great espoma products out there that are organic based. They have pretty low numbers, plant tone, holly tone, things like that. It's real easy to apply, and that could not hurt. The rejuvenating prune on it would be my first suggestion if it's that old, just to try and get rid of some of that old energy in it and see if it'll just push some new growth for you.
Okay, and one more. Are these shrubs, will they grow well under an elevation of 4,000 feet?
Over 4,000 is tough, to be honest with you. The viburnum should do fine for you. You could see some damage on the calycanthus. You could see some bud death on the Fothergilla from the flowering. 4,000 is tough. It gets hard when you're up that high. If you're looking for some great plants for that high elevation, I'll name a handful off really quick for you. Look into aronias, your chokeberries. They are very tough, very hardy, beautiful flowers, beautiful berries, awesome fall color. And they're growing on a lot of the balds around here in our mountains. And they can powerhouse through some of that cold. Wind could be an issue up there, 4,000. So that's why I worry about some of these plants, whether the leaves are going to be tough enough. If you have them in a protected spot, I feel like you might be able to get away with it. Another one that does fantastic up in elevation is Direvilla sessilifolia. That's your bush honeysuckle. That's another shrub that is very present. I mean, it's at the top of Mount Mitchell and a lot of our balds around here. So that one will definitely do you very well. And then looking into some of your rhododendron species, rhododendron maximum, Palmia latifolia, your rose bay rhododendron, your mountain laurels, things like that will also be really tough. And I think be able to handle that elevation without too much of a problem. And again, the viburnums, there's Viburnum dentatum, Viburnum ruffidulum, Viburnum prunifolium, casinoides, nudum. There's all these great viburnums out there that are super tough, very hardy, that would have no problem up there above 4,000 foot. Let's look at some pictures. There's our calycanthus flower. The calycanthus smells so sweet. One reason it got its bubby bush name was it was so tough that a lot of our colonists and early Americans would shove it down in their dress and it would cover our stinkiness because we didn't have a whole lot of deodorants or things like that around here. So you'll hear bubby bush on that plant. That's where that name comes from because it's so sweet smelling. It'd cover fragrance naturally. The Viburnum dentatum, it's got this nice lace cap white flower. Look at those pretty leaves on that Viburnum dentatum. So pretty. The Fothergilla, you can see you've just got some of these leaves just starting to poke out on some of this here. And look at that cute little powder puff little flower. It's so precious. It's so sweet. And what a nice little stop in the early spring for the pollinators to hop on through on that one. And then who can resist? Like I said, everybody loves milkweed hydrangea. Look at those giant leaves on that plant. Absolutely fantastic at adding some texture fall color and those giant flowers. This one looks like a nice straight species because you've got sterile and fertile flowers in there, and you've got a lot less of the sterile flowers, which are the big white ones in there. The more that they've been breeding these and selecting and having some cool cultivars, they're getting more dense. The flowers are tighter packed together. So your straight species is giving you that nice big leaf there too, which is really cool. Now here are some of my favorite Nativar shrubs. The Annabelle hydrangea, everyone's seen this snowball bush. It's got a giant white, big, round flower on it that's awesome. And it was a cultivated selected variety for that big flower on it. It blooms most all summer. You can almost treat this plant like a perennial and cut it down to the ground each year. It will give you 4 foot of growth in one season, and it blooms off new wood. So you don't have to worry about it like the Japanese varieties, those pink and purple and blue flowering ones that only bloom off of new wood. The Annabelle, I mean, you can cut it down to the ground, let it completely reflush, and it'll bloom beautifully for you every year. Give it full sun if you can. You'll get the best blooming out of it. And doesn't get too super huge, 5 plus or minus a little bit. I like to keep mine cut so that I can keep kind of a nice tidy plant on it. I just think it makes it a little nicer in the home garden. Aronias, we were talking about chokeberries earlier above the 4,000 foot. This Autumn Magic is a beautiful selection that's a little more compact. I love chokeberries. The black chokeberry specifically has a really lovely leaf on it. Turns bright red in the fall, which is really beautiful. And it is one of our native berries. Now, it doesn't taste very good, so I will warn you there, but it's really, really high in antioxidants and has a lot of vitamins. I mean, good stuff for us. Mix it with some sugar, put it in your oatmeal. It's a really cool plant, and it does best again in full sun, and it can handle really terrible soil. We have one at the nursery, and it is planted in the gravel in the corner of our parking lot. I think we have a straight species planted, but it's a good 6 foot right now and at least 6 foot wide. It thrives over there. The little lacewing bugs can be a little bit of a pest with that plant, but every insect needs to eat. So let them do their thing. It'll be okay. They're going to drop their leaves. You'll get new ones each year. They also can be aphid. I'm talking all these bad things about it, but I just want to inform you, it can get a little aphid in the spring too, but I think it's worth it. We have to make those hard decisions. Am I going to spray for the aphids that are going to be on it for a month in the spring, or am I just going to let it do its thing and let the ladybugs eat the aphids and let every insect have a chance? There's a time to spray and a time to let nature do its thing. And this is one of those plants. But Autumn Magic's beautiful. I really like it. Again, the flowers, pretty awesome. Fall colors, fantastic. Fast growing, drought tolerant. I mean, I can't say enough good things. And again, you can plant it above 4,000 feet, which is cool. Clethra, your summer sweet. I like clethras a lot. They are just super fragrant. They smell so good. They have a white spike flower, comes out in the summer, and it'll bloom most all summer, which is pretty cool. Hummingbird, I love. It's a dwarf. It only gets about 4 to 5 foot tall. You may see it advertised. It's going to be 3 feet. No. It's still going to get 4 to 5 foot on you, but it's fantastic. Real dense, real tight growth habit, and it's a great one for your hummingbirds. Here's some pictures of some of these guys. Look at that beautiful Annabelle with those, big white flowers on it. This is the Aronia. So you can see the sweet little flower on that. And the Clethra. You get a nice, beautiful white spike flower on that plant too. I've got a lot of perennials to go through. I broke these down. These are just some straight species. Sun lovers and shade lovers, because everyone has different gardens, especially here in the mountains. Almost everybody's got a shade garden. Sun ones, blue lobelia, Lobelia syphilitica. I love this plant. Late summer bloomer, almost fall. So it really gives you some nice color. It'll get 2 to 3 foot tall or so. If you have a bad drainage space, this is a great plant for that. Full sun if you can do it. A little part shade. There's also Lobelia cardinalis, which is your cardinal flower. They're the same genus there, different species. And that's the red one. You see it growing all along waterways and drainage spaces. But I really like the blue one. There's not a lot of blue flowers out there. So anytime I can highlight something blue, it's kind of cool. And our standard favorites, the coneflower, Echinacea purpurea, real drought tolerant. It's got those long blooming, beautiful purple pink flowers on it. That's just lovely. A Monarda, which is your bee balms. This Monarda is really interesting. It's the Monarda punctata is a little bit more of a coastal plant. You see it at the beaches. You see it down south, Louisiana, Mississippi, all along our southern waterways. But it is a huge pollinator plant. And it's really cool looking. It's almost like the purple and yellow. We'll see a picture of it here in just a minute. I really, really like it. It's really interesting, really drought tolerant. It typically grows in sand dunes over at the beach and on our coastal waterways. So really cool. Hibiscus mosquitoes. I really like the hibiscus too. Everyone loves a dinner plate hibiscus. You know, most of the time you think hibiscus, you think tropical plant. We have native hibiscus here. I mean, you can get a good 8-inch flower off of these bad boys. There's red, white, pink. You've got a nice little variety of color. It needs some swampy space. And I will say, once it's there, it's probably going to stay there. It's a pretty intense rooting system and it gets big, 4 or 5 foot. I've seen some a little bigger than that and just really wide. It has giant trunks on it. It usually doesn't show a whole lot of life until midsummer. And then late summer, you start to see flowers into fall. Really beautiful. And then, of course, our Slepias incarnata, which is the swamp milkweed. I like the swamp milkweed because it's a lot easier than butterfly weed to grow. Butterfly weed can be tough to get started, the orange one, but the pink one is just a little tougher, in my opinion. It gets really tall. The flowers are pink. It loves, again, those bad drainage spaces, but a really lovely plant. And again, it's what your monarchs are feeding off of. You'll see a lot of action. So if you have one out there and all of a sudden there's no leaves on it and you're like, what happened? It is most likely caterpillars and larvae out there feeding so they can go into chrysalis. So it's always great to have as many milkweeds as you can to support our pollinators. Some of our shade-loving plants, Runcus, which is goat's beard. I love this plant too. Great for the shade, 3 to 4 foot tall. You'll see it when you're driving around our mountain roads. You'll see these white spiked flowers popping out along the road, which is really beautiful. And it has a really nice foliage on it. So the lower foliage is just really pretty, big and bushy. It'll fill up a nice space. Your Chelone glabra, that's your turtle head. The straight native turtle head is white. We're going to talk about a pretty pink one in a minute. But I like this white one. It's got a really rich leaf on it that I think is lovely. And anytime you can throw a little bit of color in the shade garden, it brightens things up. Geranium maculatum is one of my favorites. I love our wild geraniums. They're just so sweet. Add some color and that leaf is just gorgeous. So it's really a nice one for a little lower foliage. It'll make a nice mound, 18 inches or so. And dwarf iris cristata. I love crested irises too. Another one that just reminds me of the mountains and makes me feel at home. It'll pop up all over. You'll see it spread. You can almost make a nice little ground cover with it. It's really easy to divide too. So if you have a nice bed of dwarf crested iris, get in there and tear them apart and spread the wealth. So that one's really beautiful. The last one I don't think that's mentioned enough in native plants is the pulmonia. It's your Jacob's ladder. It is a really beautiful shade perennial. It's got a really nice basal foliage, kind of a compound pinnate leaf on it. And then you get these sweet lavender flowers. It is really cute. I'm really enjoying it. There's a Stairway to Heaven cultivar that's got variegated leaves. That's really, really pretty. It's one that I don't think we see enough in the garden, and it's a really pretty plant. Mhm.
Shelby, we have one question about goat's beard, why it wouldn't be flowering.
Maybe getting too much shade. If it's on the edge of the woods, and that's where you see it a lot, are in these edge of the woods spaces, you always see the flower poking out towards the sun. So it could be that it may want a little bit of morning sun. So if you have a space where you could move it, it's a pretty easily movable plant. So I think trying to move it where it may get a little punch of sunlight. The other thing would be doing some fertilizing a little bit in the fall and early spring with a high phosphorus fertilizer. That would really help promote some bud production. That would be my recommendation. Mhm. Now let's look at some pictures. There's that pretty blue lobelia up there. You can see the spikes of blue flowers. It's so lovely. Of course, our cone flowers, which are winners. Look at that cool Monarda. Is that just not the coolest thing over there? I just love it. It is just kind of a cool, funky, fresh perennial. Did you have a question?
I'll let them know about planets and last year. That it does look linear for it.
It can be a little short-lived. We've had that problem as a grower. We keep them in pots over the winter, and some years they all come back. Some years half of them come back. Some years none of them come back. You could try and give it a little more protection. Drainage, yes, with the clay. She was asking about the longevity of the Monarda punctata. I think it could be a clay issue with it staying too wet. Because think about it kind of growing in our sand dunes and this really well-drained soils out there. So I would try and amend a little bit if you want to try it again, plant it up a little bit, mulch it good in the winter. There's your hibiscus. Look how huge that is. If you've got a nice big area, you got a pond, this is a great plant to stick around your pond. The other cool thing about this plant is the seed pod. Once the plant goes to seed, it almost makes this little cup full of seeds. You literally can break it off and dump it out, and all the seeds will come in your hand. You can sprinkle it everywhere you go. And look at this Asclepias incarnata. I took this picture at the nursery a few years ago, just with all these flies on it. I thought it was beautiful. You can see the color and all that iridescent on there. It's just a really beautiful milkweed that we have out there. That's easy. A lot of the milkweeds can be really hard to grow, hard to propagate from seed. And this one, it's pretty darn easy. So if you're wanting to try a milkweed for the first time, this may be one of the ones to try. Here are some of our straight species native shade plants. There's that beautiful goat's beard up there, that nice white big flower I was talking about, the turtle head. You can see where the flower gets its name. It looks like a little turtle's head popping out. That dwarf crested iris I just love. And again, it just reminds me of the mountains. The geranium maculatum. And here's the Jacob's ladder. I mean, it's just the sweetest little thing. Really, really cute. We're going to plow through some Nativar perennials. Remember earlier I said there was a non-native in here? This is it, the agastache. I just think it's lovely though. Blue Fortune agastache. Hyssop, I believe is the common name for that one. Big purple spike flower. It gets nice and tall. It's upright. It's very beautiful. The straight species agastache can get really, really tall. This one will stay at about 2 feet or so. Beautiful leaves, big pollinator plant, lots of bees, a great hybrid out there. A Pensman Husker Red. This was developed at University of Nebraska. What does that tell us? It is super cold hardy, and hence the name. Husker Red. Go Husker. Cultivated for hardiness. And again, it's got a really beautiful purple foliage. This is the Husker's Red right here up on the screen. So you can see that really nice foliage. The one back in the back here that looks a little more purple, that one's called Blackbeard. That's another newer cultivar that's out on the market. This one's going to have a white spike flower. Husker Red has a light pink, white spike flower. The purple one back there has a more purple flower that comes out really pretty. Blackbeard, if anyone's interested. And the other one, White Swan Echinacea, purple coneflower, but it's white. A really lovely one. It was a seed grown variety. So again, I was talking about the open pollinated plants, and then you sow your seed and you see what happens. This was one that came and was white, was beautiful. And it comes true from seed. So if you have white swan seed, you can plant it, it should come back white for you. And it's an old standard for us from 1987. Gina, which is a beautiful upright pink phlox. It was, I believe, discovered outside Nashville, Tennessee, and it's extremely resistant to powdery mildews. Phloxes are known to just get covered in powdery mildew in the summer. This one is a little tougher. The flower's not as tight and dense as a lot of the garden phlox are, but I really like it. It's got a little bit of purple in the stem, a little darker stem, which makes it really lovely too. And I'm in love with this little lantern columbine. That's what that bottom one is. It is awesome. It's a cultivated dwarf selection. It stays small and blooms for a long time. They are in full bloom at the nursery right now, and they're still pushing some out. We'll end up cutting flowers back and getting a second bloom out of them, hopefully here soon. For shade, your asters. There are so many awesome asters out there, ton of cultivars and selections. Eastern Star I like. It's just so open. Aster means fireworks. And when you see this Eastern Star, you'll get this beautiful cloud of white flowers, kind of pinkish white flowers, real tough and hardy. Great for over 4,000 feet if you're up that high. The Chalone, remember we looked at the white turtle head when we were talking about straight species? This one is Hot Lips, and it was selected because of the pink flower and the super dark green leaves. I love this plant. It's super late blooming, so you can get something August into September with it. Very cold hardy. It's along the pathway as you go up to the Mount Mitchell walkway, that little cool new walk they did a few years ago. It's all the way up there, and it's kind of funny. You see the woods, and it's right where the shade starts. So it tells you how much it likes that shade there. Blue Moon Phlox, it's champion in my opinion. It's just beautiful. The foliage stays pretty low, but then you have maybe 12, 14, 16 inches of this big purple flower. It's not that big, but for a phlox. It was selected for its larger flowers and the nice rich color of it. You've got purple pallas, heuchera. We were talking about the coral bells earlier. Every shade garden needs a coral bell foliar plant. You do get some nice little dainty flowers off of it too, but you're really getting it for the foliage. This is one of the first hybridized from a natural purple-leaved native species. So Palace Purple has been on the market and in gardens for a long time, as it should be. It's pretty super sweet. Last one's running tapestry. Another one that I absolutely love. I think every shade garden needs a tiarella. It's your foam flower. It is spectacular, and I love this running tapestry. It is just almost like a ground cover. It just runs and runs and runs. The leaf is similar to the coral bells, a little bit more cut, but really nice. The leaf veins are a little darker, so you get some nice depth of color. And it has a really sweet white spike flower that'll pop up all around and come up. It's really lovely, and it'll just cover for you. So if you need a nice little ground cover for your shade garden, this is a great one. Here are some of those pictures. There's that agastache, the blue fortune up there, the Husker red penstemon, the white swan, and here's that pretty phlox, that Gina that's so nice and pink. And this is that little lanterns. I am loving this. Most columbine like the shade. This one you can go full sun, which is another cool thing. Our native species really like some shade. You could do half and half on this also. We grow ours in full sun, and they are loving it. And the amount of flowers we're getting off them is spectacular. And here's some of the shade plants for you. There's the aster up there. See those nice little dainty white flowers? Just really sweet, really pretty fall bloomer. So you're getting something later in the season, which is really nice. That pink turtle head, look how dark those leaves are. And you can see these real dark stems on it. It's just a really nice cultivar. The phlox, that nice purple flower with the phlox with the early spring growth, and our tried and true Palace Purple heuchera there. You get some purple flowers on it, but really that nice basil foliage with a little bit of silver and white in it. It's really lovely. And my favorite here, the tiarella. There you can see the leaf, and you get a little bit of the dark along the veins, which is really nice for depth. You can see some of this starting to push out a little bit, and that white spike flower, it's just phenomenal. The last thing we're going to do is talk about a couple grasses here. Andropodon, this black mountain grass, was actually selected right here in Western North Carolina, and it is a variety. It is going to come true from seed, and it is beautiful. It's a big blue stem. It has some blue in it, and then it has a really silvery flowered seed head that's just lovely. Everyone loves pink mealygrass around here too. Pink mealygrass can be similar to the Monarda punctata, where if we have a super cold winter or really wet winter, you may not see it come back with very much vigor. This Eragrostis spectabilis, the purple love grass, will kind of sub in for a little bit of a dwarf ground cover pink flowering grass. It's really beautiful. It stays real low, real drought tolerant, real tough, great for hillsides, in spaces that you don't want to plant a fescue or some kind of lawn grass. That you can seed this and it'll hold erosion issues and take care of that kind of stuff. It's just really beautiful. The color's really pretty. So I love that one. Carex appalachica, your Appalachian sedge, great shade of sedge that's really nice. It has a wonderful soft texture with the big push in meadow gardens and naturalizing some of our shade spaces. You're seeing these Carex being used a lot. There's a Pennsylvania sedge out there too that we really like, little thicker blade on it. So it's a little more substantial, but it's just beautiful. The form it takes in the garden. It's really nice in those shady spaces. It really softens it up. And last but not least, our switchgrass. Shenandoah is a great selection. You can see you get some really nice purple, pinks, and reds in it there. And you can see it there mixed with some cold flowers. So really nice, pretty grass. Nice thing about grass is they're really drought tolerant, and they give you something in the fall to bring your eye up. They bring some more form. Sometimes you need something vertical to bring your eye up a little bit. So a nice added bonus for the garden with these grasses. That's all I've got for us today. I'm really excited that we got to talk about nativars, cultivars, varieties, and then talk about some of the special straight species and great selections that we have out there on the market that most of your local nurseries should have for you. Going back to what we started talking about, what should you plant? Should you plant varieties, hybrids, nativars, or should you go straight species? Ultimately, like I said, the garden's your canvas. You make it yours, and it should make you happy and make you feel good. But keep in mind our ecosystem, our pollinators, our birds. So make sure you plant a little bit for them. Keep the native plants in there. Plant it for your pollinators, the earth for the future. Plant native. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I hope you all learned something and had some fun. And you can check out Carolina Native for any of your native plant needs. Thank you so much.
Great program. Thank you so much, Shelby, for speaking to us today.
Thank you guys. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
I want to remind everyone that we do have Gardening in the Mountains on August 19th, managing water in your garden. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today and for being part of our online in-person experience. Thank you so much and have a great day in the garden.